Greetings, Darklings, from across the interwebs. It is once again I, the Duchess Precious Ken, here for the Sounds and Shadows podcast. And I got to say, I'm feeling a little hussy today, a little bit hussy in my fancy new hat. Before we get started with the amazing guests I have, we always have the best guests. I'm excited to talk about the guests, but I am rocking my Crooks Lies t-shirt. And there's much debate about the pronunciation on that we've already started. But I was informed that they have a new EP single that's going to be coming up with several remixes from some amazing bands. So I am looking forward to that. And we are going to do a interview with them coming up. So watch out for that in the future, and everything from Crooks Lies out of Sacramento is always good. Now, for my interview today, I have with me a band that I have had on before, not in the video, in our audio podcast that we had back in the day, that to me is some of the most exciting work carrying on the tradition of true death rock. I wouldn't really, I don't know, you know me, I don't really like to debate genre anyway. I would say that their flavor has always stepped outside of what I think of as traditional goth. And I think it's really exciting. Every new album has had a new flavor and a new piece, and they have been friends and just awesome people making this scene, well, not brighter, darker, but doing that. And it is my great pleasure from Colorado to welcome Witchhands.
How's it going?
Hello. I got a nut block Josh.
Back there somewhere. So let's start out with that. Great to have you here. Let's go down the line and say who you are and what you play in the band.
So I'm Brian. I play drums.
I'm Joe Jin. I'm lead guitar.
I'm Ryan. I make noises with my mouth.
I like your hat, bro.
Sup, baby?
And I'm Danny. I play bass.
Of course you do. I'm the same way, Danny. At some point, I just, instead of just being a lead singer, I became a big enough dude that I was like, I'm either going to learn to play bass or like drop $150, and I wasn't going to do that. So I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to embrace this shit and get my groove.
I always felt like it's the introvert position in the band.
Which is funny because he's the extrovert.
I was going to say, me too. Like that, Although nowadays, I mean, Colin, our bass player, who you know well, Ryan, is about half my size. So, it doesn't even hold any more work. So I want to start out here. One of the questions I always like to ask, and, we'll kind of, again, go down the line and get a little flavor for it. But there was something that happened somewhere along the way where the darkness embraced you. And you saw a show, you heard an album, you got really into Tim Burton. I don't know, but something happened and you said, this is me. This is who I am. This is my style, my jam. And I love hearing what that origin story was that kind of started you on this path. So same way, let's start out, Brian, and just, give me a brief, what was that thing that happened? Were you, I don't know, were on the lawn when The Cure played, when your sister brought you when you were 13 and you were like, holy shit.
Well, I'll start off super dark. My dad died when I was 16.
Oh.
And so the band AFI was like super important to me. And right around the time, like 98 to 2000, was when Davey Havoc was like, super, super goth, fishnets, PVC, the whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
And between him and Jade, they were always wearing like Sisters of Mercy shirts or, Cure, Joy Division, all that kind of stuff. And back then, there was the internet, but that's how you found other bands, was like in the like
right.
special thanks or, whatever they were wearing. So checking that out, and then just kind of going down that rabbit hole of forums of like, oh, well, who else is like the Misfits? It's like, oh, Christian Death, or 45 Grave, or Rudimentary Peni, or whatever, and just kind of building off of that, and it just snowballed and snowballed.
Boom. All right. Joe to Jen, tell me your origin story.
Actually, I want to go last on this question, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why at the end.
Okay.
Here, I've been on before. Let's go
Keeping
with
me
Danny
on my
for
toes
delivery.
here. All right, Danny, what have you got?
So mine was actually pretty typical for anybody who grew up in Grand Rapids, Michigan, getting into the punk scene as a kid.
Wait a minute. I forgot that you were saying from it. I mean, we're in Kalamazoo, right?
Yeah,
You're a GR boy? That's awesome.
yeah, the GR punks. But I remember
Did you like
going
hang
down-
out at the Liquid Room and see us play as Amaranth back in the day or anything?
Oh, you were at the Liquid Room?
I mean, we played Liquid Room, Subculture, all that shit all the time.
Oh my
man.
god, the Liquid Room. That takes me back.
Just picture me 150 pounds with like a lot more black on my eyes,
So yeah, actually
dancing, wanting to be like Ian Curtis. Yeah.
that's exactly it. It's the Liquid Room was this all-night coffee house. It was just a mecca for every weirdo,
Tim.
freak, punk,
Good old
nerd.
Tim.
Yeah, and yeah, that's kind of where it started. And I got into horror punk really strong, and it's still one of my favorites. But I remember it was right around the Crow. I think it was actually the Crow soundtrack when that came out.
Yeah.
I hadn't seen the movie yet, and it was the first time I ever heard My Life with a Thrill Kill Cult, and I was just like, "What is this madness?" And it just was a deep dive. After that, I just kept eating it up, and here I am.
Love it. Love it. All right, Ryan, I guess you're up next.
Oh, I'm on the spot. So I probably wouldn't be goth without the internet. I'm the baby in the band. So like,
I mean, for the record, we had internet back in the day. It was just called bulletin board systems, BBS.
Forums and bulletin boards.
yeah, there were
AIM.
Chat rooms.
no bulletin boards. There were some chat rooms I was in.
Oh, I bet
or
there were.
at least Messenger, like on Yahoo. MySpace was primitive. YouTube was not really a thing. Wikipedia wasn't really a thing. Fucking Angel Fire and GeoCities pages, though, give you a sense.
I mean,
of
that
the
was a
era.
good place to find like chaos magic spells to cast on the jocks who beat you up too. Like that's what
Get on the Chaos Magic web ring. 50 visitors and counting. Yeah, that era of the internet. So what? Fuck, Alta Vista or Yahoo. I just searched like goth music, and then I think I did the same thing on like LimeWire at some point. I think the first like proper part of the goth canon band I found was like Sex Gang Children.
I mean, that's a pretty proper one. Come on,
Yeah.
And you're closer to West Coast out there, so that makes sense,
I suppose we're like the crossroads for all the touring bands because we're surrounded by lame rectangle states between
I know
like
how that
Chicago and LA. So but yeah, so when I went to high school, it was tiny. I had no siblings or cool goth friends to be like, this is what you should listen to. If you want to be a nonconformist, dress like us. So I think I got into like 80s metal and then worked my way backwards into blues. I took a really roundabout way. I was into like Alice in Chains. And then
Dirt, I still
eventually-
hold was the best grunge album, period.
Absolutely. And I think they have a bit of underrated country influence. That
For
makes
sure,
it
for
kinda
sure.
sad. But yeah, eventually I found like Sisters of Mercy and I was like, this is the band. So, I had to get the big hat and big
That's fair.
coats. Yeah.
You were feeling a little hussy yourself.
Yeah, I was. Although I'm firmly in the Andrew camp. He's the hussy disciple.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
So, yeah, there wasn't any like one thing. It was a slow evolution towards that, but
descent
I always
into
liked
the
dark
pit.
music and electric guitars, which I think is why I didn't jibe with the early 2000s let's make everything industrial beats thing. It's like I want drummers and electric guitar distorted and chorus pedals, and
I
now I'm
felt
in a
like
death
that for a
rock band.
long time, but as I've gotten older, I've realized what I don't want to do is carry drums.
Mm.
So my back has made that decision for me.
That's fair. So yeah, that's sort of my evolution. I had a bad breakup and got kicked down to the, or gentrified down to the Springs, actually, because Denver went crazy. And I met a bunch of these fuckers, and Brian and our old guitarist, I think late 2015, were like, we should start a band. And it kind of came out of the ashes of a band with him, and now like I'm part of the new version of that band with these two, and it's a very incestuous little scene.
It always is. It always is. All right, finally, we get to come back around full circle. Hit me.
So the reason I wanted to go last is that you mentioned with this question, like what brought us to the dark side. I'm kind of like the little speck of the light in this dark circle of the band. Not like
pastel goth. I'm into it.
Well, no, not not that. But just more the pop, because a lot of times, some of the dark bands, it's kind of like dark, but I kind of came through the light side of alternatives. So in high school for me, before I had a voice, it was The Cure and The Mission. And so it was a lighter side for me, more romantic, that kind of stuff like that. More, harmonies and that kind of stuff like that. Beautiful, not so much distortion. And then the dark stuff for me at that time, what I thought was dark, something like Sisters of Mercy, Leibach, that kind of stuff like that, Einstürzende Neubauten. That was scary for me. So I didn't touch any of that stuff for probably like 4
It's still
years.
scary.
Yeah. And so I went kind of the light, happy, romantic side of it. And so now, come full circle in the band, we got these guys to bring the dark, and I kind of keep it light and romantic a little bit, some chorus and chords and harmonies, but it all works together. So that's how it happens.
I am a huge fan of the romantic goth and always want it brought back. I've done a couple pieces on that, and I don't know if Ryan told you, but our band Amarin is the silliest freaking goth band in the world, where we pretty much do goth songs about ninjas and ass play and stuff. So
all right.
you'll get no judgment from me for, to me, to be goth, if you have on like frilly cuffs and shit and can't laugh at yourself, like you are really missing half the fun here.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. So like I said, I've been listening to Witchhands for quite a while. I've reviewed you a few times, and like I said, got to listen to the progression. But Ryan reached out and said, you guys have new material that's coming out, and again, changing gears, doing something fresh and different. So tell me a little bit about why, the name of the upcoming album EP, and also what made this one different and special for you guys to feel like you weren't, the Rolling Stones playing the same thing for 5 decades. You did something fresh with it. Tell me about how it's fresh.
So I think
lineup shuffle,
the lineup shuffle, but I also think if you go back to our first record, it wasn't a very cohesive record to me. To me, that record was each one of the songs was kind of our influences.
Are you talking about A Voice and Nothing More?
Yes.
Okay.
It was more of our influences, and like we wrote songs kind of around our influences versus like what our band actually should sound like. It didn't mesh, right? And since then, our 2 EPs that followed that meshed a lot better, but it was also different periods of time. Like, Lapel de Vide was like, that was a really dark record for, I know, at least me, and I know Aaron, so writing that was kind of dark.
but also very progressive. I think that's the other thing on that album was it was complex,
Yeah.
and I think that's another thing that really made it stand out from other whatever goth or death rock of the time, is that to me it was too complex and interesting to have as much punk rock roots as I thought the first album did,
Yeah. I mean, we pulled from a lot of different places, and then COVID happened, and a lot of people got priced out of Colorado. Aaron being one of them, and then our other band, we had a couple of members that had to leave too. And so we kind of meshed them together. We had another project called Poison Dreams where Danny played bass, and we're like, wait, you play bass? Cool. So Josh moved over to guitar, and then he moved over to bass, and then literally the songs just started writing themselves, and it really came out, and it felt right. Like it just worked. Every song wrote, and we had to tweak things here and there. Let's put a chorus here or a bridge here or whatever. But it just worked. And everybody always says, this is the best work we've ever done. But I actually really do believe that this is the best work that we've ever done.
Yeah.
So in addition to sonically, you're saying that it had more cohesion. Was there, I don't know, kind of a overarching theme or anything to this where you, like in concept, kind of had a cohesion that brought it together?
I mean, if you mean like lyrical subject matter,
sure. I mean, it could be that. It could be in the song titles, the stuff, all those things.
Well, so our process is pretty much always they write instrumentally, and then I write the lyrics to it when it's like nearly arranged and kind of the concrete is starting to set. That's when I sit down and I start writing over it. And I have this like 50-page document of little fragments of lyrics and quotes I draw from. I'm always adding to, and I just kind of go down that list while I listen to it on a loop and start grabbing things, and then grab the ones that start forming a theme that matches the mood of the song.
Yeah.
And I think as much as there was a plan or an overriding influence or something, it was more, we lived through 2020 and COVID and the horrendous politics and everything else. And I think I hit this point where I switched gears from growing up in Boulder and just being like, why can't we all just get along, to there's absolutely no fucking reason to cater to Nazis.
I think a lot of people, went through that and had that.
I was like raised as a bougie white kid, and I'm straight, and it kind of like was easy to overlook that until stuff was happening in all our faces.
Right.
So that's kind of where that came from. I would like to alienate all National Socialist assholes and their Trumpy compatriots.
I'm fine with that. We're big supporters of that. So tell me about what the album is going to be called, and when you are expecting to hopefully have the release date.
It's called No Gods, No Masters.
I like that. Yeah.
It'll be April 15th on all streaming platforms. So that's when it'll come out.
Beautiful.
And if you want to, so that streaming platforms, but if you want to support and buy an actual physical CD, we're having it produced through Batcaves Productions in Poland.
Yes.
Yeah. And you can go to their Bandcamp now, and you can actually hear 2 of the songs on the record.
We'll make sure to include a link with that in the comments of the interview. Another thing I always like to ask too, when talking about kind of a new sound, new album, is that technologies come a long way and played into it. And again, from your first 2 releases, I think of you on the organic side of kind of new wave of goth. And so it's live drums, it's a lot of guitar sound, it's these things. But did you have anything, whether it was when recording this, a technique or a toy or a new piece of equipment, something like that that you used on this album you hadn't really ever used before that you think rings out, and at least when you listen to it, it's something that you hear and think about?
I think just in general, the tools that we use now are a lot better, and we've taken time. I mean, it's been since 2015, so 7 years. We are mixing and mastering. He does most of it. I do the drums, but I think we counted and it was like 100 some odd hours into mixing and mastering the album. So, just learning on the fly, tons of research, that sort of thing to get to where we are now.
Yeah.
I think that is something that's really unique that you can do now. Is back in the day that wasn't an option then.
No.
You were paying 150, $200 an hour for studio time, all this shit. Now you can YouTube that shit, put together your own studio for $2,000 in your bedroom and like have it sound pretty damn professional.
Yeah, I'm sure it would have cost us, $25,000 with
Right.
the amount of time that we've spent to do this. It's fantastic in that that musicians can have the tools that we do nowadays.
But I mean, like this $50 Behringer input that we're recording through now, that's what all of the instrumentation and vocals have gone through.
And
Nice.
I'm one of the big tech guys in the band, so I have a tattoo of a computer chip with an Apple processor. I've been using Apple since before the 2000s. So we use Apple exclusively for all our stuff, software and everything. So
I thought you were
Not
going to show
sponsored.
me that you actually had like a AC/DC plug implanted in your wrist so that you can just
almost
jack right in.
almost.
Beautiful. All right. So next up, we've talked about the new album. Tell me a little bit about, what you're going to do out to support it. Do you have any live shows that you have coming up that you're excited to talk about, or events or anything like that?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. So Cinco de Mayo, we're playing with Os Gang in LA. It's Os Gang,
The Wraith.
The Wraith,
Oh.
Shrouds, and us, and the Crusty Drunks. So I mean, it's like that bill is insane. I don't know why or how we're on that bill, but I'll take it. After that, we're
playing with Nox and Vacula.
We're playing with Nox and Vacula back here
in town,
Very
and then
cool.
Ausgang
and then
again,
Osgang again in town.
New Mexico Goth Fest,
Yep.
which guitarist Aaron runs.
That used to be in the band and lived there in Colorado, and it was a Colorado Goth Fest before, right?
Yes.
Yeah, he was the creator of it.
Who are maybe some of the other people on that bill that you're excited to see?
His new band, Funeral Process. So that'll be cool. And then
The headliners are Tragic Black and Alice with a
Very cool. I love
Yeah.
Alice. They're great.
Yeah.
They're very active in the Sounds and Shadows Facebook group.
right on. Yeah, they seem super rad. So
and our buddy Fernando, his band Plague Garden up in Denver.
Love
is
Plague
playing
Garden,
it.
love
Yep.
Fernando. Yeah.
And also on the new album coming out, we have 2 tracks that have guest vocals.
Yeah.
One of them is from what's the new band?
Hemnetier from Canada.
Oh, yes. Miss Raven. Yeah.
Yep. And then the other is from Mexico. What's the name of that band?
Hueco means hollow
Oh.
in Spanish.
Yes, I know Jose very well.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Rico.
So
He
guest
is a
vocals on 2
sometimes
tracks.
contributor and writer at Sounds and Shadows.
yeah.
And I love that you guys are doing that mashup, because there is nothing more criminally underrated in the scene than the Mexican and Latin goth scene.
Right?
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
If some band in Germany does a album singing in German, it will get reviewed by every page like mine in America. But if a band that plays for 10,000 people at home at big in Mexico records an album in Spanish, nobody will cover it.
Yeah.
And there's really no good reason why other than racism. It just sucks. And it is something that like boldly we need to change. And the fact that you're having Hosea that is incredible, great vocalist, and just the best dude.
I'm so stoked for everybody to hear it. It's insane.
When he came in to the practice space and he goes, "I got the vocal tracks back," and he played it, my jaw just was like, "Damn,
it's nuts."
There's so much soul and heart in his voice when he sings that. I'm just like, damn, that's better than you, man.
Yeah. He's got
now wait, full circle though. Amaranth's next album, Got the Mist, coming out. Ryan is one of the featured guest vocalists on that single. So
I think that's so cool. You know, we kind of did it by accident on our last EP. Lance had actually written lyrics to a song that we already had lyrics to, but we were like, screw it, you know, we'll just do the song again with his lyrics. And so Jose kind of did the same thing. It's Dead Ringer is the song.
Yeah.
But we kind of wanted to keep that tradition. I think it's just cool because people didn't know that Dust and Nuremberg were different songs. You know, it's crazy how much
the same song.
The same song, but they're different just lyrically, but how different
singer
a singer can make a song. So I think it's cool just to have that. And going forward, you know, I think that we kind of want to do that at least on one track, everything that we put out.
Love it. Very cool. So coming up here near the end of part one, I want to kind of ask, because like I said, you really do something that's different and specific. I feel like, because I hear so much of it, you know, doing reviews, that goth really has moved its focus towards dark wave, synth wave, post-punk. Like, this is the stuff that's really getting more attention now. But the LA scene and Christian Death and, you know, sexy, these were things that to me were essential to the beginning and the start of it, just as much in a lot of ways as your Sisters of Mercy, Mission, you know, so on and so forth. Tell me a little bit about that. Like, what is that death rock sound and why does it speak to you?
So I'll go because I love death rock. I mean, that's my jam.
There's a death
that's
rock
my jam. To me, it was that aggression. It was trying to find, you know, going back to, you know, AFI, like when they were a hardcore band. I come from like the punk rock scene, like the hardcore scene.
Sure.
And you know, finding that, you know, wearing Cure shirts or Death in June shirts or stuff, I liked it a lot, but it didn't have that aggression of like, you know, hardcore. So the first time I heard Spiritual Cramp by Christian Death, I was like, oh, cool. So Rick basically just took a hardcore breakdown and made it the focal point of the riff. And then you have, you know, the chorus pedal guitar, and after that and everything, it was just like, it was perfect. That's what it was.
Yeah.
And then, you know, that was, you know, throughout time, about 2014 rolled around, and I saw a video of Anasazi playing, and seeing that live, I was like, yeah, I mean, it's a hardcore element and like that punk rock element, but it's just so vicious. And that's what I loved about it. And I think that's what it comes down to, is just kind of that aggression versus like post-punk. Nothing wrong with post-punk. I love post-punk, but I just like that energy. It's that more raw punk energy to me of death rock that I like.
Yeah, no, I would agree with that. And to me, especially in the first two albums, and in particular with Ryan's voice, I think the rock is another important part of that, not just kind of the punk aspects and the death, but there is something that kind of reminds me a lot of the earliest, what at the time was called heavy metal, now would probably be called hard rock. But, you know, your Ozzy Osbourne sound, your Black Sabbath, your, you know, booming bass, that's something that always comes through in your music and that I love. And instead of everybody in the world trying to sound like Robert Smith or Ian Curtis or the fact that it
Filter.
has more of a traditional 70s hard rock sound in the vocals and bass makes it more original and stand out.
So it's funny you mentioned that. We were going through, when you put stuff on Spotify, it's like, what bands, and we definitely listed the Cult as like, number one on there.
Hell yeah.
because it is very.
That's definitely part of your
Crossover
sound.
band.
I love
Yeah.
the Cult.
The crossover. Yeah.
So-
I was trying to explain to somebody the other day. They were like, "Well, what kind of music does Witchhands make?" And I go, "It's death rock." And he goes, "I don't know what that is." I was like, "Well, you know what goth is, and you know what punk is. And imagine if they had a baby." And he looks at me and he goes, "So you make sad, fast music?" And I was like, "That's exactly what I do." And I'm using that forever now.
I think like maybe all of the stages of grief are present.
Simultaneously.
Except maybe bargaining.
I love it. I love it. All right. So for the end of part one here, we always like to spin out to a song. So why don't you guys say off L'Appel du Vide, Unto Death. What is a song that you feel like if they've never heard Witchhands before, what is a song that kind of really encapsulates on that album that we can spin out to and people can get a taste of what you're all about?
Probably Dust. I'd
Yeah.
say Dust.
Yeah, we
I mean,
picked
it's a
Death
jam.
Tomorrow last time. Let's do Dust.
Yeah.
That's
was,
a frequent opener on our
Unto
set
Death.
lists.
Wonderful. So this has been part one of the interview with Colorado death rock band Witchhands, and we are going to be spinning out to the track Dust. Join us here if you like what you've heard and you're interested for part two coming up. And everybody out there in interweb land, keep it fucking dark, yo.